What's up, everybody? I'm Richard.
And I'm Shawn.
And we are speaking the language of bromance. And Shawn, there's a strange person on my screen, my HUD, my dashboardy, my boardy dash. Tell me all about it. Tell me about it.
Richard, so we are coming up on 400 episodes in about a year. And this is just a show that, like, if you want to, like, talk with people, the internet's the best place to do that. So I sent out a tweet saying, hey, it'd be awesome if on our 400th episode, if we could get Kevin Smith and Chris Jericho on. Like, I thought that'd be cool. And somebody reached out to us, Richard, and said, well, what about me? What about me? And I said, you know what, sir? You need to be on this show, because I don't know if I would say this was our first ever listener, but I guarantee you it's got to be up there, because back when we first released episodes, we talked about some sharks swimming up the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
And the very first person to comment on that and say, oh my gosh, I'm not swimming in the river anymore. I don't think he ever did, but we'll learn to see if he's snuck into the river like somebody else on this show. But Richard, I want to bring
How
on...
do you sneak into a river? It's a river.
No, but when
Especially
you're younger...
the Mississippi.
Well, yeah.
Tiptoeing up to the bank.
But you can't, like the Mississippi, you're not going to be like, hey, mom, dad, I'm going to go swim in the river. And they're like, yeah, sure, go ahead. It's safe.
Oh my God, when I did that, my mom was so mad.
Oh, I bet.
She was like, where were you? You were swimming where I was swimming in the river.
Like, I jumped off a bridge to swim.
She was so I didn't tell her that bit.
But Richard, I want to bring on, I'm going to say it's our number one fan, our number one listener. He's hooked us up, not only just being a great person to talk to online, he also hooked us up with tickets to see a ball game.
Yeah,
when we went to Chicago, and I want to welcome
and
on.
we got to see a very, very hip and cool comic book store.
We did, which I think closed. Yeah, it closed.
It did.
But I want to welcome on David. David,
Fucking
thanks for joining us and being on
over here.
This special episode.
Thank you very much for having me on. I will tell you guys, I think that shark episode was either number 7 or 8.
Oh shit!
I think so. I think that sounds right.
And I think this origin story, if I can remember, 7 to 8 years ago, however long this was, I think the origin story was at the time I was listening to a bunch of Kevin Smith podcasts. I was probably on an episode of Hollywood Babylon or something like that. And I was replying to something. And I think one of you reached out and actually tweeted at me like, hey, if you like this, you probably like our stuff too.
If it was Twitter, it's Shawn. Shawn runs Twitter. Shawn's the Twitter master.
So I was on the train home. I was like, I have an hour and 20 minutes to kill. Sure. Let me give a new podcast a try. And just like that, what is it called? Bromance was kind of born over the internet. So,
aww.
Yeah, it worked. So I know. So when Richard and I first started this, it was totally kind of a goof just for him and I to have a conversation with each other on a weekly basis. And, like we'd throw up tweets and stuff like that. We're trying to find people that might like it. And when you tweeted us back, like we both kind of had the thought of like, oh, somebody listened.
Yeah.
And it's not us.
Yeah. And it wasn't mom.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, that's not true. Mom never listened.
Although my mom has been Facebooking us a lot whenever I put it up there.
Yes. Yeah. I've noticed that. And you know what? Actually, mine has too. She'll like the posts. She won't share them.
Do you tell her you're like
talk to her about?
You're like, Shawn's mom leaves comments.
Yeah. I say that.
And this is why I don't go on Facebook anymore.
Yeah. The only time I go on there anymore is just to post our episode and then leave it. But so like what is this the first podcast you've actually ever been on, or have you been on a podcast before?
This is the first one I've been on. I tried maybe 4 or 5 years ago starting up a podcast with my wife, and we would sit down and just talk. It was going to be like a parenting podcast. We were going to sit down and talk about having kids, because at the time we had 2 little ones. And we were just, it ended up like 20 minutes into the conversation, me just doing dick and fart jokes and her getting angry at me. So it probably would have been a fun listen, but it wouldn't have made it past episodes.
He's like, no, this is what other people do. Why don't you go do it with other people? Maybe I should. Maybe you should.
6 years later, here we are. No, I tried to do one with my wife when Rich and I first started out too. It was the same thing. We would like get in some little like argument Or I would try to be like, no, you got to be funny. She's like, what do you mean I'm not being funny? I'm like, no, you're funny. It's, oh, damn it. I'll sleep on the couch.
I think I floated the idea every now and again to my wife, and yeah, that's a non-starter. It seems like.
So does your wife listen to podcasts too, or is it she kind of out of the podcast thing?
She used to. She's more like turned to the YouTube side of things now, so it's a lot of that. But I still listen to a lot of different podcasts, yours included. Wink. And yeah. As far as like my podcasts go, I maybe floated the idea by a buddy of mine that I've known since like third grade about starting a like wrestling commentary podcast where we'd like what like especially over in the last year, not being able to be around each other, we would just sit down, we'd watch an episode of like Monday Night Raw, and we would just talk over it as things were happening. And it would be like a watch along thing.
Talk to this guy.
Yeah,
I've been to this guy here.
Yes, yeah. I've been like all in on AEW, and every it's like the last like 4 or 5 years, every January I get back into the WWE network, and my goal is to watch from the beginning of Raw all the way through pretty much like the WCW takeover that happened like 01, 02, because I may think it'd be great to go back and just listen to those too, like, or not listen, but have people talk about like what they were going through at the time when that was going on at the age they were. Because, you know, when I was watching wrestling at that age, it was always something at grandma and grandpa's house, right? Because mom and dad didn't want to watch it. So I'd go over there Saturday night, watch WCW Saturday night, and then grab a pillow and wrestle with it and have a fake belt, and just a great time. So were you more of a WCW guy or a WWF guy?
I was only able to watch WWF unless I was over at somebody else's house and WCW was on, because we just for some reason never got that channel. But so anytime I watched WCW, I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, this is super underground. And I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. And then you'd watch a little bit more and it's like, okay, it's not actually that so great. but and then, you know, I'd switch to like a public access channel, and it would be ECW.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is where it's at. And then, you know, 3 episodes of that would air, and I'd be like, okay, are there any more of these or no? Because they would only show the same 3 episodes.
Did you ever do any tape trading back in the day, or did you get into that?
Never did tape trading. No, that was my buddy of mine who's that big wrestling fan. He is a big, I don't know if he is a tape trader, but he owns a lot of tapes, and he does a lot of like the hardcore extreme backyard wrestling kind of thing. He's really into that. And that's too much for me.
Same boat. Like there's I don't know if you've seen the Moxley Thanksgiving match that he did.
No, I did not see that.
So like, you know, backyard, well, it's not, they were actual, I don't know if they would consider that backyard wrestling, because I think they were trained. And I always have to be careful with that, because like if you call it backyard wrestling, but it's not backyard wrestling, people get mad. Because
was this CZW?
I think so, yeah. But essentially I'm pretty sure it was just like a saw, but somebody told me it was a turkey cutter, and they do like cut his head to make him bleed a little bit. But these guys know how to do all that stuff without permanently injuring themselves, which fascinates the hell out of me.
Yeah, I don't know how you take a spiky plate to your face and not permanently injure yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you run up like Mick Foley. I think he's kind of probably that end of the time where, like, you know, unprotected chair shots and stuff like that really messed him up. But the guys now I think they're a lot more protective about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't imagine it feels good to fall on a bed of tacks.
Yeah, there's no way you can fake that.
No.
Or do it gracefully, like a swan diving into text, like it's a music video. You just
and you just immediately get up and grab your ass and just yell out.
Pick out tacks for weeks.
I don't want to do that.
So do you follow wrestling much anymore? Or is it?
I don't. I just went over to my cousin's house and we watched a Royal Rumble, and that's the first time we watched Royal Rumble in years. And it was just for, you know, shits and giggles. We used to watch it all the time in the back, or like back around that WWF, WCW time. And I think we're similar. Like we stopped watching right after that happened, right after that whole invasion thing happened with them. But we would like order the pay-per-view and get Domino's and just sit around and just joke around. And during some of the boring matches, we'd go out in the front yard and like horse around, wrestle, do some of that stuff, and that was always a good time.
Beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah, pretty much.
You'd have the dude like in the Boston Crab, and he wouldn't tap. You're like, dude, you got to tap.
Is wrestling the only sport that we do that like guys do that where they like watch it and then immediately want to be like, let's go do this? Like when we all got done watching the Super Bowl, we're like, let's go outside and play football. I mean, I didn't, because I didn't really watch it and it was cold.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever seen like a women's arena football game?
Yeah, that makes me want to play football. Not gonna lie
That
about
makes me want to play football with a bunch of women.
I mean,
so
I think that's still pretty popular too, right? Like that's one of those, I got to be careful I'm not like looking up when the wife's like looking over the shoulder. Like, no, I meant arena football league.
But I'm saying like is like you watch like baseball and then you don't immediately, as soon as you watch a game, you're like, I want to go play baseball. But it seems like wrestling, you watch it and then as soon as it's done, you're like, I want to go out and get on my roof and jump off it onto another human being. Because
absolutely, I want to pick my kids up and throw them down on the couch and horse around with them. That's the fun part.
It's the only sport where you feel like this immediate, like almost primal need to mimic it. I don't know what that is. I don't know. What do you think, Shawn?
Well, I mean, whenever we watch wrestling, my son, like right when we hit play, wants to wrestle until the women come on. Then he's like sitting down watching intently. Yeah. My wife makes me fast forward through that. But no, I mean, like, I think it depends what age you are. Because as a kid, I think whenever like baseball would pop on, like I'm throwing the baseball against the couch. I'm acting like I'm fielding. I'm going outside. Basketball is the same way. In football, like we were watching the Super Bowl a tiny bit. I think, and like I said, I think it's just an age thing because my kid was wanting to do a little bit of football stuff.
Yeah, my kids see that stuff on TV all the time. They want to do it. And I think now I'm just fat and lazy and I don't want to do anything.
Well, you get winded and you kind of get embarrassed.
You do. It's not so much the fact that you get winded. It's the fact that you get mad that you're winded. Yeah. That's what it is.
And then I get extra mad because they end up doing way better than I ever did.
Yeah. And you said your sons are 8 and 10?
8 and 10. Yeah.
8 and 10, okay. Yeah, because my son's still at the age like I can, like if he like hits me too hard, like I can still like, I'm still the king of the jungle. But like 5 or 6 years, he's like gonna give me a good one. I'm like, oh, go to your room.
Yeah, dude, I'm saying like my boy's 16. No, he'll be 16 tomorrow, and yeah, I'm kind of feeling like it's not that sense that like he could take me. Because I'm pretty sure I could still take him. I think I could.
Are you gonna try that tomorrow?
Tax, I'd take him.
You know what pressure points are.
You're like, son, you're 16. Now we have to fight to the death.
Yeah.
Has he seen Karate Kid?
He has just recently because he just watched Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Which I flew through.
You might be able to take advantage of the crane kick, but if he's seen it, he knows what to look out for.
Yeah, damn it.
Yeah.
Just remember, Richard, fight dirty because there's nothing fair about fighting.
Yeah, that's how I would win, Shawn. 100%.
Yeah.
It'd be all crotch grabs and throat punches.
Yep. You get him down, you pinch him. He's like, ow, that's cheating. It's like, nope.
Yeah. What do you think? Punch, punch, punch.
I'll go clean your room.
Yeah.
Go clean my room.
But now it's like this weird cat and mouse game of like avoiding the horseplay aspect of our relationship that used to be a big thing, and now it can't be because you don't want that moment. Because that second that moment happens, the whole power dynamic's going to shift. I know it. I know that's what'll happen. So now I have to play smart. I have to work smarter, not harder.
At what age does that start slowing down? Has it just been like recently, or is there like a certain time where you're like, oh man, I need to like it gets you to headlock a little too hard that you're almost thinking your life's in danger?
I'd say, well, I don't know. It depends. I'd say probably about like 14, 15. There, basically like once puberty like really starts kicking in, that's when you're like, oh shit.
I've got a couple years left.
Yeah. You guys got time. It's fine.
We got to be careful with 2 of them though, because they can double team you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, all right, well, I'll come up for the front, then you sucker punch dad in the side.
One's gonna be bent over, like on all fours behind you. You're gonna be like, "What are you doing?" And then he'll be like, "Just wait, push."
I'm just excited for the day the nut shots stop.
Yeah,
my son.
That's just a hype thing.
Yeah, he came around the corner the other night and just like whack, and like I had to like lean over, and he's like laughing, hitting me, and Tiffany's like, "No, you really hurt Dad." Like, I taste pennies.
No, she was like, "You really hurt Dad." Then you were like, "Nope, no, it didn't. No, I'm fine.
I'm good."
In our house, that stopped right around like 10 years old, but we just had another daughter, and I know it's going to be like, I just signed myself up for more 10 years, like 10 more years of hurt.
It's just where they run into it with their head. I don't miss that. Don't miss it at all.
So back in the day when you discovered our show, so the very first episode you listened to, you think might have been the shark one, some in that region.
That was the shark episode, and then I immediately went back and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go. I just flipped the switch in my head. I was like, all right, these guys seem cool. I'm going to go back and listen to episodes 1 through 6. So I went back and I just listened through like the first 6 episodes, and it was like an evolution.
We're sorry.
It was cool seeing that evolution of like, 1 through 6 and then 7 hit. And then everything else after that was like, it's almost, I would say it sounded very professional. Which, I mean, kudos to you guys. And then also just like, I want to know how many episodes before episode 1 did you guys do before you dropped episode 1?
We recorded.
I think we recorded the first three or four.
3 or 4, yeah. So we banked.
So we recorded the first like 3 or 4 back to back. Well, I don't know if we did them like one, like in the single night, but I think it was over the course of like 2 weeks. We did the first 4, and then when we went to release, so we had those 4 in our pocket when we went to release, and then as soon as episode 1 was out, then we started going week to week.
Yeah. Are there any episodes before that where you were like, okay, we can't put this out there, this is terrible?
No,
yeah. The episode
we have
0
no sense of good taste.
There's only been one episode that we've recorded that, like, right when I went to bed, I told my wife what we talked about, because it was a super fight episode. It was our second super fight ever. And that's the card game where you basically have like two characters and their abilities, and you fight each other. And I think Jesus was fighting Hitler at some point.
No, there was a nun.
There's something worse than that.
There was a nun, and I think she was a very sexually active nun, her ability was something sexually like that, charged nun that was fighting. I don't know. I remember there was a nun and tentacles, like hentai tentacles.
And this was all random. So it wasn't like this was, hey, let's do this, it'll be funny. It was just how the cards played.
Yeah.
And I went and told my wife, I'm like, so Richard and I had an episode where we played the card game. She's like, yeah. And I told her a little bit about it. I'm like, I don't know if we should put that out. She's like, please don't.
Well, you know what? Like, the more I think about it, like, in hindsight, compared to some of the actual news or stories that we've told, like, it seems kind of fairly tame in the grandioseness of everything else.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go back and like edit it and listen to it and see if it was really as bad as I thought. But
I thought you had it done. I thought you had it and it was like edited and finished.
I've never even touched it. I've still got your audio file up, but I've never sat through and listened to it.
You should just release it in like 10-minute clips. That way it can never get flagged for anything, and you can take everything out of context. So you get to the tentacle part, and it's just like, what the hell are they talking about?
I just remember, I don't remember much. I just remember there was a nun and tentacles, if I think. I don't know.
I think
it was like 3 years ago.
No, it might have been longer. But yeah, I think that's where we learned whenever we did the super fight game, I would draw the cards ahead of time. So that way, if some kind of scenario came up with that, we're like,
smart move. You don't want to play the death card.
So I guess... So you listened to those episodes. What made you keep going listening? Because I mean, I know early on our audio was okay. There was a few little rough spots, but
mainly on my end. I felt like my audio like went through these peaks and valleys,
depending on not loud.
Yeah, well, not just loud and not loud, but like depending on acoustically, like where I was sitting. Because you've usually, I think, yeah, you've pretty much been in the same spot for like at least 2/3 of the entire run. You've been pretty much in that room, in that chair, and then I've moved like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, you recorded in a library once. A public library. I
did that for a bit. A conference room in the library. That's where the super fight one happened. Because I was sitting in the library in this little like conference room, and I'm trying to like keep myself quiet because I'm like, okay, so there's a nun, and there's tentacles. I do remember that.
I can't imagine staying quiet in a library talking about nurses and tentacles and stuff like that.
Well, it was in like a conference room, so it was like shut off, and there was like, but the room, like the whole front of the room was all windows that looked out into like the main lobby. So I mean, I don't think it would it wasn't soundproof. So I'm sure anybody that walked
as
by,
you're talking about it, the windows of the conference room are getting all steamy. The librarian's gonna walk in.
He's like, "Hold on, I got to open the door. 1, it's hot in here, and 2, they got to listen to this gold." So yeah, so what kind of kept you going listening for? I mean, at this point, it's been 7 years that you've been listening to us.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So your podcast drops every Sunday. Honestly, I've done some thinking about this. Your podcast drops on Sunday. I take the train once a week to go down to the city for work. I listen to it on Monday. It's either I listen to it on the way there or I listen to it on the way back. Depends on how I feel. And that could just because that's the only podcast that I know of that I listen to in my repertoire of podcasts that comes out on Sunday that I can listen to first thing on Monday morning. Yeah. And timing wise, that's why.
Like for the morning commute.
For the morning commute.
I like it.
I guess it's like talking. I imagine myself talking to you guys while you're having the conversations that you're having. And I like some things Richard says, and I'm like, no, that's absolutely wrong. And then Shawn chimes in and says what I would say. It's just, it's kind of like being with 2 friends. So like you guys have been good friends for me, and I've just chimed in every once in a while on Twitter to say like happy birthday or something. So yeah. So hey, thanks for doing the podcast. And it's been fun listening for the last 49 episodes.
Yeah, I know.
Shawn, I don't know how to take a compliment.
Yeah, I know, right?
What do we do?
Well, it was like when we went to Chicago and saw you for the first time, and like you had said, like, "Oh my God, it seems weird, like actually seeing you guys talking because you've only heard us." And Richard and I were like, yeah."
I felt. So we went to that game, and afterwards, we went to the comic book store, and we talked a little bit and walked around and whatever. And after it was done, as soon as it was over, I was like, as soon as you walked away, I turned to Shawn. I was like, I think I came off like a complete and utter asshole because I didn't really talk that much. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know.
The problem was every time he looked at you and said something like, "Don't look at me in the eyes."
Yeah. Listen, peasant. Address me by my full name. Well, I don't know your full name. Exactly.
Well, it was like meeting strangers on the internet. You never know I could have been a 13-year-old girl for all you knew. I could have catfished the hell out of you.
That's true. That would have been rough if we got to the stadium and you were a 13-year-old girl without tickets. And like, oh, well.
Uh-oh. I thought you guys could get me in.
Guess we got to punch you now. Scalpers rules. Whap.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of your, where'd you come from, college and things like that?
College, I stayed close to home for college. I went to a school that was like 5 minutes away from my house. I went for like a graphic design degree, taught myself print design right as print design was going away. So it was like a complete waste of money. I taught myself how to do web. Like I took like 1 or 2 web design classes while I was in college and just kind of like snowballed from there. I was lucky enough to get into a job where I was making websites for a small company. And I just kind of like learned as I was, doing that job. And now I'm just, I've been hit or miss doing commercial or emails and commercial websites for small companies in the area. And then I got a nice cushy job where I don't have to leave my house except for once a week, and I get to work in baseball, and it's super cool. And I'm just gonna do this for the rest of my life, and it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I'm super like I know we root for separate teams, like different teams, but like baseball's been like my life growing up. You know, I played it through high school, loved it. And, you know, my love for baseball kind of comes from, you know, my grandparents too, because my grandpas were all Cubs fans. My uncles were all Cardinal fans. I think I've told this story before, but, you know, when I was like 3 or 4 years old, if I was hanging out with grandpa, I was a Cubs fan. Hanging out with my uncles, I'm a Cardinals fan. And one day, my uncle and my grandpas were in the same room and basically called me on it and said, well, you got to choose. And I said, I was always...
Wait a minute, they actually did this? They were like, you got to pick.
My grandpa did, yeah.
Hatfields or McCoys?
Because my uncle was like, so what's your favorite team? I'm like, the Cardinals. My grandpa's like, wait a second. You said you were a Cubs fan. Like, what team do you root for? And even at that age, I hated confrontation. So I was like, well, what other teams are there? My grandpa's like, well, Chicago's got the White Sox. I was like, that's my favorite team. Been mine since.
I got a hot take for you on baseball and which teams you can like. I got a really hot take on you.
Okay.
It's okay to like 2 teams. It's okay to like 3 teams.
Yeah. I was gonna say, as you get older, that's definitely the case.
Yeah. I grew up like halfway in between Chicago and Milwaukee. So we had like 3 baseball teams. Not to mention all the little ones that are like the farm teams that are just right in this area of these 3 big teams. So we would go to like all these little local games, and like I'm a fan of all of them. It just so happens I happen to be a bigger fan of, you know, the Cubs than the White Sox. But like, you know, Milwaukee, they do good and I cheer for them, and the White Sox are going to have a lot to cheer for this year. So, you know, go for it, man.
Yeah, I know, like, you're supposed to hate the Cubs as a Sox fan, but, like, when they were in the series in 16, I was like, you know, why? Like, I love seeing teams that haven't won it win it, because like, you think about the fan base, like, you know, my grandpa was a huge Cubs fan, and he passed away before they won. Like, it would have, like, just been, because I got to experience that at a pretty young age in 05 with the Sox. So, you know, Cubs fans waiting that long would be awesome. And I feel like when I got to about, like, 22 or 23, that's about the point where I'm like, I'm not like tribalizing my sports teams. Like, there's just no reason to do that. There's way too much to worry about besides that.
I completely agree, except for the Bears. Everybody's got to root for the Bears. That's where I'm at. Yeah. Like, Bears is one thing, but I do agree on the whole Cubs versus Sox rivalry. I usually lean towards the Cubs because the family I had lived more north in the city. So, you know, like, that's, you know, oh, well, north side, that's where you go. So
I have family that's here that roots for the Cardinals. They root for the Sox. They root for the Brewers. I have one weird family member who roots for the Twins for some reason. So, whatever.
That one is kind of, you might want to disown that one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only one, so that's not bad, right?
If you're a baseball fan, you're okay in my book. So
how do you feel the season's going to go this year? Are you pretty pumped for it?
I just hope the season goes.
Yeah.
I hope fans can get back in the stands and people can start enjoying some baseball games. That'll be.
Last year was pretty exciting, though. I know, Richard, I don't know how much you followed, but they went with a shortened season, which made every game seem more exciting because it mattered more.
Yeah, put a little bit more weight behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Baseball is a long season. I mean, it's 162 games.
Yeah.
So it goes the whole summer. You know, if you lose a game, it's like, I mean, that's one of 162. Like, you should be okay. But that short season was, whew.
That was a fun one to watch for sure, especially because you could hear more out there. Yeah, like if you can get past the crowd noises that they had in the back, which is really easy to do, you could hear every little thing the players were saying, and it was great to watch some of the YouTube clips of, you know, like people getting in arguments on the field and just screaming at each other. That's the kind of stuff you want to see, you know.
I still think, I don't remember if it was the first week, but like a coach was coming out to, one of the managers was coming out to argue with the ump, and they get like, 5 feet out of the dugout. It's like, wait a minute, puts on his mask, then walks up, 6 feet apart and starts arguing.
Or when they start handing out hand sanitizer when people get to first base. That's a good highlight right there.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
They
you know
just come
why?
and douse third.
Because baseball cares. That's why. Doo-doo-doo-doo.
So how many stadiums have you been to?
I've just the 3 that I'm close to. I planned, so last year I planned to go out to Cleveland to see a friend of mine, and that obviously didn't happen because 2020 and all. But at some point this year I'd like to go out there and see the Indians play. I mean, it's definitely a bucket list item for me to get around and see all of them. Every time I've been to New York, it's always been like during the winter, so I can never go and see any of those. But yeah, it's definitely a dream that I at least want to get out to Boston.
Boston's one on my list too. Yeah, I wish I would have hit up New York before they took down the old Yankee Stadium.
Yeah,
but close by, St. Louis's new one is pretty sweet. I mean, it's new since like 2003, so it's not really new.
Been to that one.
Kauffman is really sweet too in Kansas City.
Haven't been there. I've only been to 3, and 2 of them I was with him.
Okay.
So,
which order did you go see him?
The Cardinals one was Cardinal Stadium was first, and then the one in
Texas.
Dallas. Yeah. Dallas, and then Wrigley.
Texas was hot. We sat in the bleacher seats there, right in the sun, like 100 degrees, right in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
It was very hot, but they had nachos. It was like an endless nacho bar.
You really can't beat that,
right?
I did a very dumb move, and I can't remember what year it was. I took my pregnant wife, to Wrigley Field and sat in the bleachers, July 3rd when it was 96 degrees outside. We lasted about 20 minutes and then went to a restaurant nearby and then took the train home. It was that great.
Like you do.
So did she like kind of give you the elbow a few times, like 10 minutes in, or was that?
She was giving me the elbow before we even walked in.
Yeah, like, hey, I'm fucking pregnant. Can we not be here so I don't, die?
We got there late, so there was nowhere to sit. We were just going to stand around in the heat, and I was the only one that was able to drink any beer, so it wouldn't have been fun for her.
So are the bleacher seats at Wrigley, are they just first come, first serve? Because I've never sat in those seats.
Yeah, pretty much.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother culture out there, too,
That's
man.
what I've heard.
Yeah.
I've been to, my brother-in-law had his bachelor party, like I said, middle of summer, bleacher seats in St. Louis, same thing, sun just beating down on you.
That was horrible. Those are the same seats I had. And yeah, the sun was like directly on my face. I've never been so burnt.
Not enough water drinking, like drinking too much beer besides water. And all of a sudden I stand up. I'm like, oh, who put a tunnel here? Like, I need to walk down somewhere in the shade.
Yeah, there's nothing like eating like a sun-kissed hot dog that's been sitting in your lap for 30 minutes because you're
I love ballpark food. This past year was the first year I haven't been to a game in probably at least 10 years. Because usually I try to get to Kansas City to see a Sox play or St. Louis a few times. So
okay.
Just, oh man, I miss it too. Like the first time walking back in there, because I talked to Richard about this a while back. It's like a cathedral to me. Like going out, seeing that field, seeing, like watching them play catch, watching them take batting practice, hearing the hit of the ball, the smell of the grass, the food. Just, I mean, it's summer. It's like Americana. It's just like very, like, just brings a calm over my soul whenever I'm there.
Yeah, there's nothing like it at all.
That's good stuff. I'm glad. I hear you guys romanticize it, and it does. No, I mean, and I don't mean that in like a sarcastic, bad way, because it is. That sounds totally awesome. I will say that I remember when, I remember as a kid, I would drive by Wrigley Field, and I was like, that place looks kind of cool. And then so when I went with Shawn, that was my first ever time inside the inside the ballpark. And I will say that, like, if anything was close for me to the experience you're both describing, I would say that was probably it for me. I'm not totally not saying that just because you're out of the experiences I've had at a baseball field, Wrigley was by far my number one by a mile.
Yeah. Did you walk up the stairs to like the seating bowl area?
I think so. Yeah.
Because that's the greatest. Seeing that for the first time is the greatest feeling in the world.
Well, the other thing that I like is Wrigley's it's in a neighborhood. It's like smack in the, like, you're just like walking down the street and you're like, oh, here's a house. Oh shit. Here's a gigantic baseball field.
And that was a few years ago that you were out here, right?
Was it 14? No, it would have been like 16 or 17, I think.
It is completely different around that neighborhood now.
Yeah. The hotel and stuff, I think they might have just broke ground on that, but yeah, that wasn't there yet.
Mm-hmm.
There's a donut place right across the street.
Oh, because didn't they have to tear down a McDonald's or something that people were upset about?
They tore it down, but there's another one kind of in the same place where the hotel is at now. So here's the story. They tore down the Taco Bell that was right across the street, and that was like my go-to lunch place. And they still haven't replaced it. And sadly, yeah, like you mentioned, like that comic book shop that was like I call it a comic book shop because that's all I would go in to see. But it was like an old, like antique newspaper, like all this crazy stuff. Unfortunately, like the guy that ran it passed away in like late 2019. And then it was kind of bought out by whoever's renovating all that stuff. So they tore that shop down. I went in there one last time and I was like, what should I buy? And I just couldn't find anything that had like sentimental value. So I took like a rock that was sitting out on the just on the step right by the front door, and I still have it right here.
Nice.
So that was fun. I loved going into that shop because I'd have to wait for a bus to get to my train to take home. So I'd just wait in there like on a cold day. Like I was always like, oh yeah, just go in, browse, whatever.
I feel like that's a place like when we went there the one time, it had the feel of every time you walk in there, you could find something new you hadn't seen before.
Yeah. They had like old like movie posters, like old movie poster prints and stuff like that. I was down with it. Yeah,
they had like a Dracula poster one time. And I was like, there's so much stuff that I wanted to buy and just never had enough money to do it. So yeah, it was fun. But yeah, I think you went in there, and I think your impression, if I can recall on the episode where you were talking about it, because like I listened to that episode a couple times just to be like, oh, you're talking about me. All right. Cool. I think you were talking, they didn't have any bags or boards on any of the comics, and they're just like laid out in these things. And I was like, yeah.
I do remember that. They did not bag and board.
You're pretty upset about that. I think you even said that in the store.
I mean, that totally sounds within my wheelhouse. Savages.
No, I think like you said, Richard, the Wrigley Field experience though it was very much like, it almost felt like you were going, I mean, they've really updated because they had the new board and everything, but it definitely feels like you're going back in time to an older generation of baseball, which, you go to like any of the other stadiums, it's very modern. Like they have huge parking lots. They have all these amenities. Like there, it just felt like there wasn't a bunch of food stands in the park where we were at least, but you see this like stadium that's been there for 100+ years, and you sit in these seats like super close. Like I think that was the first time I sat close enough where it's like, hey, eyes up front because you might catch a foul ball in the face.
Yeah. Well, because there was, I remember the stadium, and the other thing I remember was the Cubby Bear, which was right by the stadium. And I don't know if you know this, Shawn, but the Cubby Bear, huge music venue. Not huge in terms of size, but huge in terms of importance. Like that was like the Chicago punk scene in like the 70s and the 80s, and like all your big name, like a lot of big name bands, like that was the spot for a lot of like I said, a lot of underground punk bands. But and it's kind of become in terms of the Chicago like rock scene, like that's your top bill venue. You know, it's like the equivalent of like the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville. Like if you're a singer-songwriter and you're in Nashville, you got to go to the Bluebird Cafe where you sit in this little chair surrounded by like, you know, maybe 50, 60 people, and you sit there and play songs. Like I would say that the equivalent to that in Chicago is the Cubby Bear for rock bands. It's a small-ish venue that like has a whole lot of history behind it.
I'm going to tell you something. I know that I'm a suburbanite kid because I didn't even know that.
Really?
Yeah. Like I'm 10 years old and I'm going into the Cubby Bear with my brothers who are, you know, they're old, at that time they're old enough to drink, and I'm you know, much younger than they are. So I'm like just dancing, you know, and having a good time. I don't recognize any of this crap that's going on around me. I'm just sitting in there dancing. So yeah, that's cool. I know right like down the street, there's also another place that's also pretty big. It's called the Metro. And that place is it's still to this day, like they have a lot of big names going in there. So that's always fun to see. I think Jack White was there.
Oh, nice.
It was a lot. Just recently, like within the last couple of years.
Is that kind of like a small venue too, like 300-400 people, or is it pretty big?
I want to say it's a little bit smaller, like building wise, smaller than the Cubby Bear. But yeah, you're definitely right. Cubby Bear is good for a lot of drinking and
it's the Chicago CBGBs. If nobody CBGB.
No, yeah. I didn't know. I don't know the reference of. I don't know that place. So I don't
see there. So there was a bar CBGB's in New York. It was like the infamous like punk bar that like all like the people that became superstars would play in this like venue that was the size of my house, like the Ramones and Blondie, and you know, I
remember Guns N' Roses played there too, right? Like that was a big
I mean, possibly I could totally see it, but it was also well known as, you know, like everybody, you know, like the beer's piss warm, and it wasn't the cleanest establishment.
When they just shut that down, like what, 7 or 8 years ago,
something like that. Yeah. There's a movie about it. Alan Rickman's in the movie, so there you go. So the other thing, the thing that because I am and I like art that follows art. I also I'm kind of sad because I don't really see it that much anymore. I don't see any Twitch streaming anymore. What is that something that kind of came and went, which I totally understand because it's a very streaming. I've tried it a couple times and it's a much more involved process, I would say, than podcasting, for example. Because with podcasting, I'm sitting here and talking to Shawn, and like there's somebody for me to dialogue with. There are a lot of times, especially when you're starting out on streaming, that there is nobody in your chat. And so, you still, you know, like you're like, well, I'm on the internet, I gotta be entertaining. So you sit there and, you know, and do your best. And so I guess, you know, like, I guess what I'm asking is what made you decide to, you know, to start doing that? Cause that was kind of a thing. And I mean, like I said, I followed you. I hopped in your chat every now and again.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I started it up a couple years ago. Just, you know, that's my, like, during my day when I'll either have a movie on in the background that's just like background noise to drown out the sound of like the normal household things that are going on.
Sure.
But like Twitch kind of took that over, so I'm watching other people like just like playing Call of Duty or playing Fortnite or doing whatever, and they're just having a bunch of fun, chatting with their friends and doing all that. And it's like, all right, well, let me give it a try and see how it goes. So, you know, you get your computer all set up, you get it like a decent webcam. You know, like my computer now can't handle anything. So that might be one of the reasons why I'm not Twitch streaming. But yeah, just like you said, it's you kind of just like start talking into a void.
Yeah.
And then one person from Latvia will come and find your stream, and they're like, "Hey, friend," and I'm like, "Oh, hi, friend, how's it going?" Watch me play, Broforce or something like that while I'm, just sitting here, and like, "How are you?" And it's kind of weird, like meeting new people at the, just like the first time we all met. It's very just kind of awkward at first. You don't know what to say, and when the first person comes to your stream and says hi, that's when you realize, oh, I also have to play a game and be entertaining.
Yeah, that was one problem that I noticed of myself when I was doing it, because I would start playing a game and then I would get kind of focused on it, and then I was like, oh shit, like there's a hi. Sorry, I'm in super focus mode, and then you sit there and ask the question. Well, if that's the case, then why not just play the game without the audience? You don't.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a very sociable person. Like even coming on here, like I was kind of just like haphazardly joking around, like, "Hey guys, what about me?" And then you extended the invite, and my heart immediately went, oh no. Like my anxiety went through the roof, and I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm just, I'm gonna say yes because I want to push myself to do this. So yeah, being a why not person.
Oh, exactly. Well, I mean, I don't know how many episodes it took Rich and I when we were just doing this just ourselves before it felt like we're like, now it's kind of like secondary nature doing it for so long, but it probably took a solid year before it felt like you get here and be like, well, do I really want to turn the mic on? Do I really want to do this and converse like on something I want to put on the internet? Twitch, I imagine, has to be so much harder.
I would say that still happens to a degree, because there are times where like you and I sit here and there have been times where we sit and chit chat for an hour and a half and we don't turn the mic on just because we're not in the mood. Yeah.
Kind of like we still like are trying to talk ourselves out of doing it almost.
Kind of. Well, I don't know if it's even that, but I think it feels like it's become more of a, like, it at the end, like the show has always been like, let's entertain each other. And there are some times where we're not looking to not necessarily entertain each other, but just like sit and just chit chat about, anything or everything. But there have been times where like we've talked for an hour and a half and we plan to do a show, and then we start talking, and then after an hour and a half, we're like, you know what, let's just do this. We'll record, later in the week or next week or whatever.
So, yeah, I don't want to get all sentimental on you guys, but all you got to do is just sit down and talk to each other, and then you just record, and then that's it.
We've talked about like doing like pre-recording of our, like the little conversations we had before we started.
Yeah, didn't you post that at some point, like a Twitch thing?
He did. He has his video, which I strongly encourage that he should do more of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I like those. I thought those were really good.
Yeah, and your venture into TikTok was cool too. I like the hand puppets.
Yeah, that's the one thing we need to get back into, is trying to get that set up. It doesn't take too long, but it's just finding the right time when. Because I thought like it'd be a good opportunity to like have my son help me, but like right away I'm like, no, you gotta put the one here, and he's like, well, I want to put my hand. I'm like, no, you can't. Like, I'm the director, you're the assistant,
and he's like, you're stupid.
He runs out, Mom. I'm like, you're fired. Shut the door. It's
Did you just fire your son?
Well, he didn't put this puppet where I needed it. He's 4 years old.
If he can't follow directions, he's not getting paid either.
Just go full on Christian Bale on him.
Yeah.
He was in the light.
Oh, Lordita, put the hand up the puppet.
So what? I'm glad that you kind of took the why not approach to join us on here. Have you kind of just gotten any other motivation from just like even doing this to think like, oh, like are the wheels turning? Like maybe you want to start doing your Twitch again, or maybe you want to try to tackle your own show, or?
I mean, so the other half of not doing Twitch anymore is you just run out of time. You end up, the years go by and you have kids and then they eat up all your time, and not, not in a negative way, but you spend time with family, and then it's 9:30 at night and you're like, man, now I'm tired because I'm fat and lazy now. And I just want to go to bed. And then I'll just sit there and go through TikToks on my phone for the next 2 hours. But yeah, that's like the other half. I mean, I'll jump in every once in a while whenever I want to play, or like my kids all the time. Hey, Dad, can you Twitch? Can you go on Twitch? Can we do this and play a game together? And I'm like, all right, cool. I get to play games with my kid. This is fun. And maybe somebody will find that entertaining. But if not, whatever. At least my wife can watch in the other room and she can pay attention to our conversations. So that end, my wife started streaming. She was playing Animal Crossing, and for the first day, she already had like 4 followers. And she had more people in chat than I had in like the past 2 years that I've ever tried to stream a game. So
I get it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. My wife and her friend started a podcast a few years back, and I was really nervous that was going to happen. They're going to be like, we got 10,000 listens. Is that good? I'm like, it's okay. I mean,
you should stop.
It took us 6 years to get that, but you've only been podcasting for 5. Yeah.
10,000. 10 is good. Jeez. Yeah. So she's the more sociable person in our relationship. So she'll be the famous streamer one day if she ever decides to stream again.
Okay. Here, I have it. And not okay. This isn't putting you on the spot, but I would like to know if you have a criticism for either Shawn or myself. I am just to show that like this isn't like the whole this isn't a circle jerk. This isn't like tell us how fucking fabulous we are, please. Oh, it feels so good.
So you want his 1-star review right now?
Yeah, because I get it. There are times where like we do a show and I'm like, I felt, like we did it, but it just didn't, for some reason, like it just wasn't hitting that sweet spot.
Yeah, usually on those, Rich is like, I was really good, but Shawn, I just don't know.
This is gonna be hard because I'm genuinely a nice person. I don't like to be mean to people, especially over the internet.
No, it's not mean. It's constructive criticism, to which we will not be offended. I'm going to black out my monitor for no reason.
Why don't you take the recording of you guys talking to each other and put that on YouTube as opposed to just the episode with the thumbnail?
We've thought about that.
That's a sound thing. Like, hey, like, we spend at least, and I've mentioned it umpteen times. I'm like, we talk about like at 30 minutes before we even hit the record button, and I try and talk it up like, oh, look how cool our relationship is, but like nobody ever sees that.
Yeah, that'd be an easy one to do too, because like usually I just have to hit the record button a little bit earlier on our video and then just upload that. But I guess I always worry about the editing part of it, because that would just be the straight raw. Because the episode itself, I do a decent amount of work taking out a lot of the, dead space, or, try to tie some things together, cut all of Richard's terrible jokes out. It takes a lot of work. But, if I just upload this, it's going to be all my bad jokes.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We can tell bad jokes if it makes you feel better.
I always wonder if anybody want to see that.
See, you just got somebody that says they want to see that shit.
Yeah. There you go. See, like the way I take in podcasts, like it's changed over the years too. So it's not like I've just listened to you guys like on like my iPhone. Like it's more convenient for me to listen on my computer sometimes and over YouTube, or sometimes like right now I use Google Podcasts. So that's, the easiest thing to do. But I mean, all you have all you have to do is sign a $100 million contract with Spotify, and then you're set.
We've I wanted to wait to announce that at the end, but we are in the works right now. Spotify asked us, they sent us I don't know what the legal term is for it, but it was a cease and desist. I don't know I think that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
So
it means stop being so fucking hilarious. Yeah. That's what that means.
They said you're taking all Joe Rogan's downloads.
Yeah.
No, that dude's like, he's hit the gravy train when it comes to Like out of nowhere,
he
too.
sits around and chews on fucking vitamin supplements and rages at the dark in Austin, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He's in Austin now, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, just watch a couple of YouTube videos while your guys are talking to each other and talk for 3 hours straight and have extremely famous friends like myself come on and boost up your ratings.
That's because that's totally what we do. I'm like, here, look at this. I found this thing. Look at this. Watch this. And I'll share because we do it because we're over Skype. Like I'll share my screen. I'll be like, look at this video. And I'm like, no, not that video. That's porn I was watching a second ago. Look at this one.
Well, I mean, I think like this is probably a good foray into it because, we brought our friend Elon Musk on. So we're going to
stonks. Gonna talk about the stonks.
Is that a cigarette or what is that?
Yeah.
Shawn, pass that over.
Yeah. He had Elon Musk smoking weed on his show. And I think that just helped him. Like we talked about, Mark Maron had the sitting president of the United States. And, Rogan's the one who gets the big interview.
And I offered him a drink and I totally forgot the fact that he was, that he was not in recovery, but he was, like an alcoholic and was sober. And the first time I met him, and this is probably like a month after he sat down with the sitting president of the United States. And I'm like, you want me? I can get you a drink if you want. He's like, no, I'm fine.
Do you want to do shots?
That's
Black
cool.
tar heroin?
And then
cocaine?
5 minutes later, I was like, oh my God, he's sober.
It was awkward when you walked back up there. It's like, hey, dude, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. Listen, I bought you this drink.
You're just double fisting right in front of his face.
We do have a pretty legit picture of somebody took of him with me and Richard in the background. And it looks like he's taking a selfie.
Yeah.
Good times.
I wish I had a very famous encounter where I could be an ass to somebody, but I don't think I've ever had a very famous person encounter.
Well, I wasn't intentionally an ass. It was one of those things where afterwards you went, duh, and you just total face palmed yourself. What is the matter with you? That was what I said the whole car ride home.
Yeah. I didn't realize he was recovering because you're like, oh, he's recovering. I'm like, what? Did he have a knee injury? Was he on medicine?
And I'm like, yes, after he fell down from being an alcoholic, Shawn. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. Shawn, I was having a conversation with my kid last night at the table, and I immediately thought of you because he's 8 years old and he's asking me about the Ninja Turtles.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, okay, because my son is named after it's my wife is, we have a Spanish, my wife is Mexican. I am obviously a fat, white, Caucasian male. And so our kids are mixed. So we have, mixed names for them. They could be said in either language and they're, the way that they need to be said. So his name is Raphael, which is an excellent Ninja Turtle name as well. Not necessarily named after the Ninja Turtle, but I think he's starting to think that he is. And so he was asking about all the other Ninja Turtles. And I had a very stupid nerd moment yesterday where he was asking about all of the other Ninja Turtles because he knows about Raphael. He is, how he is. But I had that moment where I was just reciting the old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoon lyrics to him.
You're like, see, now this guy, he's a party dude.
Donatello does machines.
Yeah.
My wife looked at me right as I was in mid-sentence and just shook her head.
And you're like, give me a break.
It couldn't have been a better situation for me to sing that song.
This
is why we're having no more children. And I'm like, what?
Oh, but if you get a chance, not the new Nickelodeon show, I don't know if you've seen it, but the first Nickelodeon show that started in 2009, I think, or 10, it's really good. I've gone back and watched the first season with my kiddo, and he likes it. Because if you go back to watch the original, the first season's really good because it's actually got a full storyline. But then it gets to kind of toy of the week, like they're trying to sell the toy to you. But yeah, the first Nickelodeon season is really good.
I will definitely check that out. I just started up Star Wars Clone Wars.
Yes, that's a good one.
Yes.
I'm told that it's very slow to start up, but I guess the last season pace is the best payoff.
It's very slow. It's very slow to start up, but once you get the sense of familiarity with all of the Jedi, then it really kind of takes off, and it gives you a much more. It doesn't necessarily. It's not one of those things where like, oh, this is going to fill in the gaps for me, because it does, but it doesn't. It doesn't really. I would say it doesn't really fill in the gaps. Like it's, obviously this is taking place between episodes 2 and 3. Like you can totally, yes, it does fill in that gap, but it doesn't necessarily need to be filled. But the stories that are in there are so good, and there is a reason that Mandalorian was as good as it was, and that reason is Dave Filoni, and Dave Filoni cut his teeth on that Star Wars Clone Wars show, and it's so good.
Yeah, we sat down to watch Mandalorian, and that inspired me to finally get into Clone Wars. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
And I'll tell you what, once you're done with Clone Wars, you can just go right into Rebels, because and I would say Rebels is to me is, in terms of quality of show, I would say that Rebels is actually a better quality of story and show than the Clone Wars. But I think that's just more of there's a lot of, there's 7 seasons of Clone Wars, I think.
Sounds right. Yeah.
And I think Rebels was only two or 3.
So what are your kids kind of getting into it? 'Cause like that's one I tried to pick up. I've tried to watch the first season multiple times. I get about a third, 2/3 the way through, and it just drops off. Are you noticing your kids are kind of getting into it quite a bit at their age?
My oldest is getting into it. Like he has he's 10 years old, and I let him watch Walking Dead, which is probably maybe not the best parenting decision in the world, but he was super into it, and whatever, I'm just going to let him watch it. So he just finished up to whatever is on Netflix, like season 9.
Nice.
And that's all he did for the last 3 months.
Yeah.
So, he's now getting into like the series where he's like, all right, this is cool, I can start watching more stuff. So he's also finished Stranger Things, and which I haven't seen yet either. So I got to get on that. So yeah, he's starting to get on the series bandwagon, and we watched Mandalorian together, Cobra Kai, and his Star Wars interest is kind of at its peak level right now. So with Mandalorian,
yeah.
Oh, and he's gonna get the fill of Star Wars coming up too. They're getting so much stuff coming out in the next 2-3 years.
Well, I mean, the thing the last, like with Clone Wars, it's just, I feel like Clone Wars started off as a show trying to gear itself towards towards a younger audience, and then I think it wasn't until later they realized who their audience actually is.
Well, in 7 seasons, their audience would grow up too.
Yeah. And so the stories definitely get more grown up. The show, I would say, early on is geared towards a younger audience, but as it goes on, they kind of find their pitch, so to speak.
And David, I wouldn't feel bad. Like, I think I've realized that when I was 5, my parents let me watch The Last Boy Scout, which I don't even think like a 15-year-old should watch that. You're like, hey, it's a football game. What's he doing with that? Oh, no.
Yeah, I remember being young, and on like network TV, they were airing like uninterrupted Schindler's List.
Oh, yeah.
And my parents sat me down to watch that, and I was like, I should not be watching this. Like,
yeah,
this is.
Well, and then there's all the stuff that just sails over your head that you don't realize until you're way older, and then you watch it. Like 100% the example, Ghostbusters. You watch Ghostbusters when you're a kid, and you're like, oh, this is, there's, they're fighting ghosts and everything. And then like 20 years later, you watch Ghostbusters, and you're like, is she giving him a blowjob? Is that Ghost giving Dan Aykroyd a blowjob? Why did I not see this?
Mom and Dad called it night swimming.
It just like you put like these kid blinders on, and it just totally like fuzzes out.
Yeah.
But you watch it as an adult, and you're like, that ghost is totally going down on Dan Aykroyd right now.
Yeah. I wish there was a way to tell what movies I watched as a kid that I would love to like. I feel like I've watched Blues Brothers as like 8 or 9 years old, and I haven't seen it since. And I'm wondering like, oh, I wonder what that's like. Or today, I was in a really bad mood because this morning I put on Dead Poet Society, and I hadn't seen that like since I was in college. So it's like, oh yeah, I've totally forgot about this. Yeah, talk about a downer, man.
Is that the Robin Williams one, or is that different?
Yeah, that's Robin Williams.
I think I saw that in high school. So it's been a minute since I've seen that one.
I watched Karate after watching Cobra Kai. I went back and watched Karate Kid again, and my perception of that movie was totally different. My perception from what I remember watching that movie is that the kid, that Johnny, as like in the first movie, was a complete asshole. And that, like Kreese was just, another asshole. But when you watch that movie again from beginning to end, you're like, Johnny really wasn't that bad. I mean, like, yeah, him and Danny didn't get along. It was just, but like at the end, Johnny actually gives him the trophy. He's like, here you go. You did a great job. You're all right. And hands him the trophy.
Next time, don't kick me in the face, jerk.
Yeah.
Illegal move.
You're definitely watching it with like all the context of Cobra Kai.
Exactly. But then, like I said, I'm watching it and I'm going, he actually gave him the trophy. I totally didn't realize that. I don't remember this at all.
Was that an 80s trope where the jerk guy kind of came around at the end? Or is that the only...
No. Like you watch like Animal House or Breakfast Club or Bueller, like the assholes were still assholes at the end of the movie. Like John Hughes, like everybody that was an asshole, unless you knew they were not going to be an asshole, like Judd Nelson in Breakfast Club, like, yeah, he's kind of an asshole, but like you see where it's going.
He's just a more likable asshole.
Yeah.
He's misunderstood.
He's not the asshole, he's the anti-hero.
Yeah, there you go. Smoke him up, Johnny.
That's great.
I haven't seen anything. So WandaVision we're big into. To get prepared for the new, this isn't like anything old, it's more newer, but to get prepared for Kong versus Godzilla or Godzilla versus Kong, watch the Godzilla King of Monsters.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I should be able to watch with the kids and want to watch with the kids. I think we saw the preview for the new one. It's coming HBO Max or whatever.
Yeah, HBO Max.
Into March, I think. Yeah.
March. Oh, yeah. I better get cracking on that.
I think it's March, right?
I can skip over Godzilla 2000, right?
Oh,
yes,
my favorite Godzilla.
100%.
So good.
I'll tell you what, though, on HBO Max, all the old Godzilla movies are on there.
Ooh, all right.
All the old the old black and white one, that's on there. The ones with the with the English dubbing, those are on there. Actually, I can't remember if they did the English dubbing or if they put subtitles on it. I think they might have put subtitles on it.
I don't think I may have seen like bits and pieces of the originals, but my first Godzilla would have been Godzilla 2000. Yeah. But I know like the first Godzilla with Bryan Cranston, where you think Bryan Cranston is going to be, he's a big part of that movie.
Well, because this is the first thing he did after Breaking Bad. Like Breaking Bad ended, and then you're like Bryan Cranston in Godzilla, and you're like, holy shit, Walter White versus giant fucking radioactive monster. And we all saw how that ended.
Mm-hmm.
And you were genuinely shocked. You're like, oh my god, they killed Walter White, fucking Heisenberg.
But King of Monsters was pretty good. Like I think that'd be a good one for the kids, like an 8 to 10 range. Probably be able to get that pretty good.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, I agree.
Well, I guess as we're kind of rolling into an end, did you guys have any other topics you want to touch on before we get to the finale of this episode?
Yeah, I have a really hot take on Avengers Endgame.
Oh, yes.
Okay, the absolute worst way. It was written so badly. Time travel in movies is the laziest way to end like a series, unless you're Back to the Future or like Time Traveler's Wife or something like that.
Well, I agree. Time travel's the only way you can do like because I feel like Endgame was like, hey, let's do Marvel's greatest hits, and the only way you can do that is time travel. There's no way you can get around it.
The multiverse. That's how you get around everything. Doctor Strange can't see into the multiverse, or can he? I don't know. He's going to be in a movie called The Multiverse of Madness. So
yeah, WandaVision I think is giving us that. Are you up on WandaVision?
I'm not.
Ooh, I mean, right now I think when we're recording this, there's 5 episodes out. So I think if you get through those, it really starts to ramp up. Richard and I have been watching it kind of week to week, and it's like the first 2 episodes came out on the first Friday, and you're just like, what the, like, if this wasn't Marvel, I don't think I'd keep watching.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And can I say that I like the fact that Disney has retrained me on the week to week model?
Yep.
I love that, because especially like Mandalorian, like you'd watch it on Friday, and then you like you had the weekend to like digest it and think about it, and then by like Wednesday you're like, oh, fucking Friday night, Mandalorian's coming out, Mandalorian's on its way, and you get excited for it.
Yeah, I remember watching Lost back when that was like the first big series that I got into, and that was, I started at like episode 3. And oh man, that was so much fun to just sit around and talk about with your friends, like the older friends who actually like Lost, because none of my friends actually liked it. So like I would always talk with like older people in the office, like, oh yeah, this is great. You're like, oh, is the guy was in the wheelchair and now he's not. What's up with that?
They're on an island and there's a fucking polar bear.
Yeah. Oh, it was great. That definitely adds a lot of hype to episodes coming out. I think that's definitely a good move on Disney.
Yeah,
makes appointment TV back. Like Rich said, his wife and kid watched it from beginning to end. Like they binged it, and you said they didn't have the same.
Mandalorian, and they got to the end, and they were like, "Oh, that was good." I was like, "What do you mean that was good? Did you not see what just happened?" I was like, I cried. I cried like not like a big emotional tears at the end, and you're like, "That's okay." What the hell? I was so I was angry. I was angry that they weren't excited, and I like it wasn't just to like I really love Star Wars, and they they kind of like it. Like it wasn't that. It wasn't just that. And I do feel like part of it was like when you like binge it, when you marathon it. Like the moments of impact, the impact is a lot less.
It doesn't sit and season any. It's just like you just get through it and you're like, oh yeah, oh okay, yeah. I've been watching this for 8 hours and I just got the finale.
Yeah. Oh, that was pretty. Oh, that was cool. That was a cool ending. That was a cool way to end it. Meanwhile, I'm like, it wasn't just a cool way to end it. I was like, do you understand what you're saying to me? I can't.
Yeah, that's how my kids and I watched Cobra Kai. It was like 2 episodes a day. We limited ourselves just so we can have something to think about. And I mean, that's definitely like a very kid-friendly show for us, put together. Minus all like they're like, bitch and ass and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, awesome. This is cool. I'm so badass.
It's very teen. It's definitely like has that teen drama element to it.
Very hokey but fun.
I feel like I'm kind of curious if Netflix and them are going to go down this route too, because like I think about like when I was a kid, Monday nights or Tuesday nights, I don't remember which night, we'd get around the TV and we watch like The Fresh Prince, Blossom, stuff like that. Like it was appointment TV, right? And you're getting that back where it's like, oh hey, come on kids, get in the living room. We're gonna watch Mandalorian or we're gonna watch WandaVision. Like it's the night to watch stuff and. I really love it. I think it's a smart play on everybody's part.
Yeah, I think they're going to get to a point where it's like every day of the week, there's always like 1 hour of programming to watch. And we're going to go back to that old school way of watching TV just over the internet now.
Yeah, between Marvel projects and Star Wars projects. I mean, I know COVID probably threw a wrench in a lot of it, but like. We just need to get that ball rolling, because once the ball starts rolling, then I feel like it's not going to stop.
Well, what's cool about how it's all streaming too, like in your sense, David, like you guys haven't watched WandaVision yet, but you're like, oh, well, I'm going to watch it real quick. You can watch an episode a night or a couple episodes and get caught up before the season finale. Where back in the day, it's like, oh shit, I missed a week. Well, sorry, you're not going to see it forever. Yeah. Well, gentlemen, thanks again, David, for coming on. I really enjoyed having you on for the episode. And I thought since we had you on, I would give you the floor to do David's closing thoughts.
Oh, I love it.
Well, thank you for having the least entertaining person on your podcast to kick things off. I certainly hope Chris Jericho and or like Kevin Smith will join on for episode 400, maybe, or anyone in between. I'm sure would be super cool.
Yeah, we're not picky.
I don't have any. I don't have anything to promote. So just be kind to one another, have fun, and be respectful. Wear a mask so we can all go out and have fun again.
That's always a good thing to promote. I'm 100% with that.
Yeah, because like I said, it's been a while since we've been up to Chicago, and we need to get together again to see a game or hang out and get friends together. So yeah, definitely need to get that going.
Yeah, come on up.
All right. Well, let me do a little bit of housekeeping as we're closing up this episode. You can visit our website. We're at languageofbromance.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at languageofbro. Email us at bros@languageofbromance.com. And you can check out, I'll start working on it now. We'll start putting up some of these live videos.
Nice. It's not that hard. Won't be that hard to do.
It won't be too bad.
I think.
Are you okay if we start with this one?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, cool. All right. Well, is there anything else before I close her out?
I'm okay. I'm okay if you're okay.
I'm good.
All right. Well, that's all the bromance we have for this show. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Richard.
And I'm David.
And remember, don't be a why. Be a why not.
That was nice. That was almost in unison.
Oh, this is really good.
Gives me fuzzies.